Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Middle and High School Chorus Professional Learning Community on the Georgia Department of Education platform. This platform was created for educators to collect, collaborate, and support one another. Be sure to set up your notifications to your liking and check back to engage in discussion as often as you wish. Please share this platform with your colleagues so we may continue to grow and share beneficial information specific to middle and high school choral education. The more colleagues active yields more opportunity for us to share and grow from one another. Again, if you have not got on this Georgia Department of Education community platform, please register. There should be an email somewhere in your teacher email, or just go to the website and you'll be able to register. I'm Brandy Dent, and I will be your virtual professional learning community lead for middle and high school chorus. This webinar is all about the great beyond, the activities that we participate outside the chorus classroom. If you have not checked out my webinar A, 8A, I should say, it's all about what to do when you're setting up a field trip. The next thing that we're going to talk about are concerts, and then for webinar C, we're going to hit on fundraisers. So let's get started. So at some point, there's going to be some type of performance that you and your students must participate in. Usually it's a concert. So let's first talk about the musical selections. Well, your musical selection should first of all have a particular theme. In our particular case, usually it's based on seasons. We normally have a fall concert, a winter concert, a spring concert, and of course, in the middle, there's usually like a large group performance evaluation concert. So, whenever you're selecting your music, make sure that the text or the theme is pretty much flowing well for the time period. Level of difficulty. You don't want to pick music that your students cannot perform. So if you have a beginning group, you might want to give them something that's maybe easy or moderate. But if you have an upper level group, go ahead and give them something challenging. Give them something that's going to give them a headache every day. But make sure that you have a variety at your concert. Not everything has to be in the upper level, just like, excuse me, everything shouldn't be super easy and like a round or unison. So make sure that you have a variety of styles as well. There are so many genres to choose from, and we cannot touch them all. But if you find yourself in the same genre at every concert, go ahead and branch out a little bit. So make sure that those musical selections are popping. The next thing, decide what's the purpose of your concert. It may even be a fundraiser. This is me particularly. In the fall, we do what's called a spaghetti and song, where the students are basically on the stage showing off their talent for the year. We may do one or two choral numbers at the beginning, but the students are normally doing their own thing. Fall concerts are usually presented in festival style, where maybe there's a hayride or there's something going on outside and singing in the inside, but it's a wonderful way to fundraise. The song and dinner show, as I told you, it could be that the parents want to sing karaoke or maybe even the students, but either way, Vol Food, they will show up and they will pay. You may have a back to school variety show where it's not necessarily a talent show, but it's just your students getting together, putting together a few numbers, and showing the school what they're made of at the beginning. It's a nice way to have your parents meet you and some of your former students meet some of your newer students. And lastly, why not sports? If you are able to, collaborate with your football or sports team and your coaches. Maybe you all could sing at the beginning of a very important game, such as the national anthem or Star Spangled Banner, or maybe just do a performance during halftime. It's mainly up to you. In the spring, you could also host some events. You could do that variety show as we talked about in the fall. A lot of people love to put on musicals in the spring or even the fall. Talent shows where you can earn money. And of course, don't forget your baseball and basketball sports as well. I am not leaving out any sports on purpose. Those are just my top three favorite to perform. Um, Whenever you're performing, it doesn't just have to be a free concert. So always keep in mind, I was taught to never put on a free performance. So if you can charge $2 to $5 to $10 to $12, the parents will pay. They will pay to see sporting events, they'll pay to see your students, and give them something worth paying for. So only you can make those decisions, but try. Community service. We want to also give back to the community, of course, because your students are performers. The best thing to do is to set up to perform in various locations. This is a copy of a flyer that we had back at our winter concert, where we had a church come in and bring boxes, and we collected canned foods. It allowed the church to have more items for the food bank, as it was winter time, and it gave them the opportunity to give back to homeless shelters and such. And it also gave my parents an opportunity to see that my students were willing to give back to the community. It was a really great time. Another community service performance could be at the nursing home. They love to have visitors come in, and right now we're dealing with COVID-19 and things of that nature, but things are open back up. So set up with the one of the liaisons at the nursing home to see if you can schedule your students to spread a little love. A children's hospital is also an option where you can have your students go in and perform for them, or just visit and take items that they would need, such as little toys, teddy bears, socks. We would take peppermints and candy canes to the nursing home. Anything is helpful. An airport is a busy location, but a lot of times students are able to perform there. You can try it out and see what happens. The community malls is a nice place where a lot of people are there. You can easily give out your flyers for your upcoming events, or even get donations while you're performing. Sometimes churches will reach out to see if your students can perform there, or maybe they're having an outdoor event. There's a Sacred Heart Festival that happens here in my community, and every year my students are asked to perform. They have like 5 or 6 stages where dancers and bands and choirs are just able to perform, and after that they break free and have a good time with their families. So keep those events in mind, and let's not forget parades. Your students can sing and walk, or your students can get on a flatbed and continue to spread the love. So give back to your community, and as I said before, collect items instead of concert admission. If this is a particular concert where you want to collect socks or collect book bags or anything that you can think of that you can give back to the community, it's a nice way to get in a newspaper, and it's also a nice way to spread love and positivity throughout your community. So don't forget that. Concerts are also have the focus of being an evaluation. The Georgia Music Educators Association every year has large group performance evaluation for band, orchestras, and choirs. So this is something that you should totally register to do every year. Getting that feedback from those judges is something my students have grown to look forward to every year. Superiors are what we aim for, but even if you're a good choir or a poor choir, feedback is always necessary. So register your students. Registration usually takes place around November, October, November deadline. So talk to your principal, talk to your students, and see if this is something that you're interested in participating in. A way to have a concert in reference to large group performance evaluation is to just put on a showcase. If you have a band and orchestra at your school, do a combined concert where your band is doing their large group performance evaluation music, and you are as well for your choir, and you have judges in the audience that will give you feedback prior to going to the actual event. Another way is to get with another chorus teacher in your district or in the district next door, and put on a showcase together where that choir will sing their pieces, your choir will sing your pieces, and maybe you can even do a combined piece. So these two pictures are just to show you that you're not in this alone. You're not the only one in your district that you can depend on. There are others just waiting for you to ask. So don't be afraid to reach out and do what you have to get your students performing. As far as the logistics of a concert, whenever you're deciding on what concert you're going to do and how, keep in mind your grades, your group that's going to sing, what voicing sounds best for your choir, and if it's going to be a male piece or a treble piece, or it's going to be combined choirs. Just make sure that you know who's going to do the performance. Then decide when and where. You want to carefully set dates for your students, that they can show up to. You don't want to set a concert the night of a football game and eight of your bases are football players. So just make sure that you carefully set those dates based on your school calendar and your district calendar as well. Secure location. If your location is at your school, make sure you fill out the proper paperwork that allows you to secure that spot. And pick a time. Pick a time that works for not only you and your life, but also for your students and their parents. If I have a district where a lot of my parents are working till like 3 and 4 o'clock, I wouldn't have a concert that starts at 4:30. Maybe push it back to 5:30 or 6. Give your parents time to get off from work. It may be okay to let the kids stay after school and play a movie or do a little quick rehearsal before the concert. So keep in mind, everything doesn't have to happen directly after school, although I know that that's probably the best option for us sometimes. And your how are you going to make this concert succeed? Are you going to set rehearsals for your students? Are you going to go over the transitions between the music, between the pieces? Is there a particular script that you want to go by? Do you want your students to introduce the pieces? Have you wrote out a script for yourself to introduce the pieces? Make sure you script those thank yous, because it's really bad when you leave off a name or two. And of course, if you have sound and lighting that you want to be taken care of, make sure you set someone in those spots and you rehearse it so they'll know exactly when and where to do it. Um, See my previous webinars where we talked more about parent volunteers. I think that was webinar 7. So don't be afraid to go back and look at those prior webinars. Here are a few more quick tips about concerts. Make sure you hype up your students when time gets closer. Get them excited about the performance that's about to take place. Make sure you have someone record it. That way you can evaluate with your students after the performance and you're able to do better and even better the next time. Provide a program for your audience. This year I did a QR code and it was awesome. And let me tell you why. I left the name off. All I had to do was go change the name, didn't have to print a thing. The parent was able to see it immediately because I had a QR code and they were able to get the link to the actual program. So those are awesome and it keeps you from having to clean up paper at the end. Make sure you have a person on sounds and lights. Script your speeches and thank yous and keep them short. I know that you want to tell them about the translation of that piece, but they're not going to hear it for real anyway, or they're not going to be as attentive as they will if you just sing it and then maybe give some feedback at the end. So always know that you're not the important one at the concert, the students are. So whatever you have to say, make it quick and make it short. I say this because I tell it to myself. I talk a lot. Students should have your permission to speak at the concert. A lot of times, kids want to give you an award or some type of something. Just make sure that if that's the case, they have your permission and you trust the student that gets the microphone. It could go really sideways sometimes. And establish your rules for students who miss the concert at the beginning of the year. I've learned not to take it personal when students have to miss concerts, but I will set parameters, such as if you miss the concert because of not having a ride and I let you all stay after school before the concert, doesn't really make sense. But if I have a student that missed because of maybe religious purposes, or maybe there was an emergency that happened, that student would still be eligible to maybe participate in an outside of school field trip. So just set your rules at the beginning of the year so that there's no confusion at the end of the year or in the middle if a student should happen to miss your concerts. And with that being said, have an alternate and capable student who can take the solo in case your soloist cannot make it. I always tell my students I have backup to my backup to my backup, because you want to be able to not be stressed on the night of a concert because of a missing student. And never expect perfection. Things will go sideways, things will go bad. Sometimes things will not be the way that you practiced it. It's life. It never goes the way we plan it. Just enjoy the moment. Allow your students to enjoy performing. And when they watch the video, give them the feedback that they need, but don't overstress about it. I'm telling you this because I've done it before and it doesn't change the situation. Stay tuned for Webinar C. We're about to talk about fundraisers and how you can have a stellar choir and make money too. Thank you again for tuning in. And oh, yeah, I want to tell you about this cool resource that I found, and it was the choralcity.com. Things that make your concert more successful. So if you will go to choralclarity.com, sorry, and you'll be able to find that information as well as share it with others. Thanks again, and I'll see you in webinar C.